Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. First, the Delphi trial is on. Is Richard Allen guilty as sin or wrongfully accused? The jury will decide. Jury selection begins in the case of Daniel Penny, who's subdued Jordan Neely, who was threatening people on the subway and got choked out. If you're going to escape from custody, hey, I say go big and do it in style. A man accused of killing his wife and making it look like a suicide, he makes that $1 million bond. A man who kills his wife and newborn because of the crying of the newborn, well, he's been convicted and he's getting a life sentence, multiple life sentences. We have this day in legal history and our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. All right, before we get to the show, go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, you're going to be able to do a background search on as many people as you desire, as long as they're here in the United States. You are going to get information about their relatives, their neighbors, their jobs, their education, social media, possible emails. I always think this is interesting when people have multiple emails. Why? Because that's the email for this dating app, that dating app. Ever wondered if your spouse has a bunch of extra emails he doesn't tell you about? You may want to check it out. If somebody's coming new into your life, do they have a criminal history? Are they on one of those public registries you hear so much about? You probably want to find out. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service today. Like I said, you can do as many background searches on anyone, cases that we talk about, witnesses, defendants, victims. You can check them all out on CrimeTalkSearch.com and cancel at any time. All right, let's go ahead and get to the docket today. Today is October 21st, 2024. And first on the docket is Richard Allen. So a motion in limine had been filed by the defense that seeks to prohibit testimony of the enhanced audio. According to the motion, the defense says allowing a witness to speculate as to the words and sounds on the recording would put ideas in the juror's head that would be confusing and misleading. Further, defense says that the enhanced video were not used to identify Mr. Richard Allen as the suspect and therefore are completely irrelevant. Seems to make sense. Isn't that what the prosecutor was saying as it relates to the sketches? Hey, if you didn't use it, shouldn't come in. This is going to be a trial decision if the appropriate foundation can be laid. Basically, the audio should probably be played and the jurors can hear for themselves what they think they hear. They should not be allowed to have somebody come in and say, oh, I listened to it really closely, and this is what it says. That is the job of the jury. The jury can then decide how much weight to give that particular evidence, if any at all. So here's what we do know from the Delphi trial. All right, so here's what we do know also about the Delphi trial that has started. Richard Allen obviously is charged with the murder and the deaths of Abby Williams and Libby German at the Monon High Bridge back in 2017. Now, this video that they're talking about was taken on February 13th of 2017, and it was found on Libby German's phone by investigators the day after the murders. Now, early in the investigation, the Indiana State Police released this video that showed the suspect, known only as Bridge Guy, walking along the bridge behind Libby and Abby. Police also released an audio clip from the same video in which the man believed to be the Bridge Guy is heard saying, "Guys," followed by "down the hill." Now, the defense says the prosecution plans to introduce the video and audio enhancements of the original video, which will contain audio of a man speaking and alleged audio of the victims played repeatedly on a loop. The video, like I said, is taken back in February, was found on Libby German's phone, and investigators found that days after the murder. A jury of 8 women and 4 men will have to decide what weight to give those statements if they are in fact heard. But we do know, we heard from opening statements in the Richard Allen trial. First, that the Carroll County prosecutor, Nicholas McClellan, had an opening statement that went about 15 minutes. He told the jury that this case is about 3 things: the Bridge Guy, a bullet, and a brutal murder. The rule of 3, ladies and gentlemen, so people can remember that. Bridge Guy, bullet, brutal murder. BBB, like snap, crackle, and pop. Remember that. That's your trial tactic lesson of the day. All right. And the prosecutor said that Allen used a gun to force the girls down the hill before killing them, and his intent was to have his way with them, but got interrupted somehow. And that Mr. Allen left behind a clue, a bullet, in fact. The bullet that we know that they say matched the gun that was found at Richard Allen's house. Now, McClellan also told the jury that they would hear Allen placing himself on the bridge and unsolicited, unprovoked admissions to the crime. He said, quote, "You'll hear Richard Allen in his own words telling his wife, his mom, and others that he did it, how he did it, and why he did it." Now, in Allen's defense attorney's hour-long opening statement, Andrew Baldwin said that Allen confessed to a crime that he did not commit after suffering trauma from the investigation and his ultimate incarceration. Richard Allen is an innocent man, Baldwin said, and the evidence is going to prove that. He also said that. Baldwin said that the girls were not shot, but instead insisted their throats were cut. Richard Allen confessed to shooting these girls in the back, but they weren't shot in the back. Richard Allen confessed to a crime he didn't commit. Richard Allen said he killed his family and his grandchildren. His lawyer argued he doesn't have any grandchildren and his family wasn't killed. Richard Allen allegedly confessed to raping them and burying them in a shallow grave, which the defense alleges never happened. Baldwin said there was a hair found in Abby's hand that did not belong to Richard Allen. Perhaps that of the real murder, perhaps. So that's the highlight. Remember, opening statements are not evidence, but it is there to provide a roadmap of what the parties, the prosecutor and the defense team, believe the evidence will show. Now remember, as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, you don't want to make promises that you cannot keep. So you keep it simple. You don't make promises you don't keep. Because why? If you say something and you don't deliver, the other side's going to get up and say, they promised, they didn't deliver, don't trust them. So the first witnesses in the case. First, the Delphi police chief, he's now former police chief, I should say, Stephen Mullen, testified about the search for Abby and Libby and when the girls were first reported missing. The former chief said the initial belief was that maybe the girls had fallen from the bridge and were somehow injured and they couldn't get home. And then on February 14th of 2017, authorities received a call about 12:15 from Pat Brown, who said he found two bodies south of the Morning Heights Cemetery. The jury also saw some drone video showing a human's view as they walked from Freedom's Bridge to the far end of the Monon High Bridge. Now, this video was taken or produced back only in 2024. Now, the Delphi resident Jake Johns, who participated in the search, testified about finding a tie-dye shirt in the creek and alerting a fireman. John's coworker called Pat Brown, who knew that he lived on the north side of the creek, and asked him to walk down from the cemetery to investigate, leading to the discovery of the girls' bodies. Now, the Delphi resident, Pat Brown, who found the girls' bodies, said at first he approached them, he thought the bodies were actually mannequins. And the Carroll County deputy, Darren Giancola, who was one of the first police officers on the scene, talked about the scene where the girls' bodies were found. The officer also said he did not see their bodies as he walked south from the cemetery to the creek, but did see a multicolored shirt and one Nike shoe in the creek when he was being called to the scene. Now, Officer Giancola said Libby's body was unclothed while Abby's was clothed. Giancola recalled seeing a significant amount of blood on their bodies on the ground, and Abby's clothes appeared to be damp, presumably from crossing the creek. Now, Sergeant Jason Page was a crime scene investigator, and he testified and walked the jury through 44 police photographs that were taken at the scene. Now, Judge Gull, obviously not wanting people to have the truth about what took place in this particular case, has banned all cameras from the courtroom during the trial. And she's gone so far as to barring even reporters from using computers or phones in the courthouse. Unfortunate, ladies and gentlemen, the trial of the century in Indiana, and this judge believes that we're all too stupid to be able to see the evidence, view it for ourselves, and decide if Richard Allen is wrongfully accused or guilty of sin. Next, the Daniel Penny trial begins. That's right, jury selection is set to begin today in the criminal trial of the United States Marine Corps veteran charged with manslaughter for placing a man in a deadly chokehold on a New York subway last year. Now, Daniel Penny is accused of recklessly causing the death of Jordan Neely, a former street performer who witnesses say was acting erratically on the train back in May of 2023 when Penny stood up to the man, moved to restrain him, and ultimately Mr. Penny died. Anyway, the proceedings, which are expected to last 6 weeks. Why 6 weeks? Well, there's a lot of closures due to public holidays and the upcoming election, and there's an expectation that the trial will last until the week of December 9th. I don't know what some of these jurisdictions do. Where I come from, where I practice law, this would be a 7-day trial, including jury selection. I just don't get it, why these things take so long in New York and California, Massachusetts. I just don't get it. These are simple trials. Anyway, so Mr. Penny is a veteran, served in the Marine Corps for 4 years and was discharged in 2021 and was attending college. Now, he's been free on a $100,000 bond, but if he loses the trial, he's looking at spending the next 15 years in prison if he's convicted of second-degree manslaughter, and up to another 4 years if convicted of the criminally negligent homicides. Now, witnesses to this incident said that Neely, who had been struggling with drug addiction, mental illness, and homelessness, had been shouting and demanding money from others on the train when Penny approached him. Penny pinned Neely to the ground with the help of 2 other passengers and placed him in a chokehold for more than about 3 minutes until Neely's body went limp. The medical examiner's officer ruled that the death was a homicide caused by compression of the neck. Now, Penny's lawyers have argued that the Long Island native didn't intend to kill Mr. Neely, just to hold him down long enough for the police to arrive. Now, Penny has claimed Neely shouted, "I'm going to kill you," and that he was ready to die or go to jail for life. Seems reasonable to me to hold the man down until the police arrive. But we'll have to see if the jury believes that. Anyway, Mr. Penny's attorney, a guy by the name of Stephen Razor, said the defense plans to offer up other potential causes for Neely's death, including high levels of synthetic cannabinoid known as K2 found in his body. They'll also argue that the video shared widely in social media proves that Mr. Penny did not apply pressure consistently enough to render Neely unconscious, much less kill him. Now, prosecutors have argued that Mr. Penny's actions were done recklessly and negligently, even if he didn't intend to kill Mr. Neely. And the district attorney, our favorite prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, declined to comment ahead of the trial. But don't worry, like all things in New York, it's one way or the other. In this particular case, it's racism or not. So anti-racism protesters gathered outside the downtown courthouse, along with others who rallied in support for Mr. Penny, saying that he saved commuters from having to deal with Mr. Neely. I don't know. Everything I've seen about this Neely guy, and calling me, I'll tell you, I'm a little biased. This guy was in the Marines. Listen, if he wanted to kill that guy, he could have. And he could have done a lot quicker than 3 minutes in a chokehold. He was probably learning. He was probably using what he learned in his close combat training to put the guy basically to sleep. I don't think that guy was willing to do that. And Mr. Neely, why was he out there, right? If you've got drug issues and you got mental health issues, and, you know, at a certain point, you've got to take a little personal responsibility, even with mental health issues, to not go around harassing people, telling them you need to give them money. But it's New York. You can do whatever the hell you want, I guess. I don't know. We'll see if the jury goes along with it. Next, if you're going to escape, do it in style. There's a manhunt underway for an inmate who escaped a hospital in a Maserati after complaining that he had chest pains. So this prisoner who said he was experiencing chest pains was taken to a Miami hospital before making a daring escape in a Maserati. The Miami-Dade Police Department says that Theodric Collins, a man with a lengthy criminal history, was arrested in Port Miami Saturday on several out-of-state warrants. Now, apparently while in custody, Mr. Collins began complaining of chest pains, which made the officers say, "We must take you to the emergency room," at the Jackson Memorial Hospital about 2:30 in the afternoon. Well, after Mr. Collins was medically cleared, police said that Mr. Collins somehow got out of the hospital with his handcuffs still on and got into a silver Maserati sports car with an Alabama license plate. About an hour and a half After the daring escape, a license plate reader caught the Maserati in Jupiter, Florida, which is more than 80 miles away. Now, as of Monday morning, Mr. Collins has not been caught and is free at large. Go big. I say go big or go home, all right? Or go to prison. Go big or you're going to go to prison. There you go. See, because most of these guys, they're going to go within a 10-block radius of where they grew up. Guarantee that's where they find him. 10 blocks from where his house was. Because most of these guys don't go beyond 10 blocks from where they grew up. Next, a man accused of killing his wife has been released on bond, and some people are not happy about it. So Lee Gilly has been charged with the murder of his professor wife, Krista, who was pregnant when she was strangled in their Houston, Texas home back on October 7th. Now, he has been released on a $1 million bond, despite allegedly killing his pregnant wife. Now, police say that Mr. Gilly, who was arrested back on October 11th, tried to make his wife's murder look like a suicide. Now, as part of his bond conditions, Mr. Gilly is not allowed to contact the couple's 2 children who are in the care of relatives. Now, prosecutors allege that Mr. Lee called 911 on October 7th and claimed that Krista had tried to kill herself by overdosing and that he was performing CPR on her. Well, Mr. Lee told police he and Krista had been arguing before he went to sleep and just happened to wake up some 3 hours later and found her unresponsive. Because isn't that what everybody does when they go to sleep and they wake up? They don't, oh, are you okay? Are you breathing? No, they don't. Anyway, Krista was taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. Doctors discovered that the injuries to her body, guess what, were not consistent with a suicide attempt. Krista's autopsy determined the fact that she probably died was due to compression of the neck, and her injuries were consistent with strangulation. Now, prosecutors say that Lee admitted Krista was not suicidal and was not a drug user. And Lee was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife and unborn child on Friday, October 11th. A judge had originally denied his bond request, and then the following Monday, he was released. Anyway, the alleged killer is listed as the founder of a software consulting company named Docmo, D-O-C-M-O. Krista had a doctorate in physical therapy and worked as an adjunct professor at the University of Texas Medical Branch. We still don't exactly know why the murder allegedly took place, and obviously we'll give Lee the presumption of innocence, and that will remain with him until he pleads guilty or is found guilty by a jury of his peers. Next, how about another guy taking it out on his wife? A Colorado Springs man that will spend the rest of his life behind bars for the killing of his wife and child back in 2022. David Weingartner was sentenced for the 2 counts of murder and sentenced to multiple life in prison sentences. Now, he was originally charged with child abuse, murder of a victim under 12, while being in a position of trust and reckless endangerments. The facts that went down were the officers were called to home about 7 p.m. on February 1st of 2022. Police originally thought the call was for a medical emergency of some type. But Mr. Weingartner told first responders, I just shot my wife and son. I've been feeling not so good lately, and something just came over me. I don't know what happened. I've been kind of hearing things, and I don't know what was going on. Well, that's right. It was determined that he killed his wife, Lizette Miangos, and George Weingartner, who had just been born in May of 2021. David told the police when they interviewed him that his son's crying made him anxious. So the shooting left the other child, a little girl named Marie, an orphan. Congratulations, David. Yes, and a crying child can make you anxious. It's like one of the greatest tests of all time as a parent. And guess what? Lots of people do it all around the world, millions of times a day. And they don't go and kill the mother of your child or your child because the crying makes you anxious. David, you've been convicted by a jury. You're guilty. I hope you hear crying in your dreams every night. Next, this day in legal history. Today, October 21st, in 1798, the Alien and Sedition Act was passed under President John Adams, which criminalized the making of false, scandalous, and malicious statements against the government. Can you imagine doing such a thing? Oh, that's right, it's protected by the First Amendment. Anyway, on October 21st, 1798, it was reported that Congressman Matthew Lyon, the first person tried under the Sedition Act, was found guilty and sentenced to 4 months in prison. This marked a critical point in the debate over free speech and the limits of government power. So, little background. In 1798, Congress passed the Alien Sedition Act with the support of the Adams administration. President John Adams. The Alien Act granted the president unilateral authority to deport non-citizens who were subjects of foreign enemies. The Sedition Act attacked the core of free speech and free press, the right to criticize the government, basically. Now, the atmosphere of partisan politics was particularly fraught in the 1790s with the rise of partisan press and the development of rival political parties. The Alien and Seditions Act stacked the deck against the political opposition, criminalizing criticism of Federalist President John Adams, but not Vice President Thomas Jefferson, the leader of the political opposition. Now, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison fought back, arguing in Virginia and Kentucky resolutions that the acts violated the First Amendment protections of free speech and free press. Now, while the Supreme Court never ruled on the constitutionality of the Alien and Seditions Act, Jefferson defeated Adams in the election of 1800, and guess what? Now, President Jefferson allowed the act to expire, and then he pardoned all those convicted under the act. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, even way back then, people were trying to say that the government couldn't be criticized, which completely flies in the exact face of the First Amendment. The government can't prohibit you from saying negative things about the government. They just can't do it. And yet they try, and they try, and they try, right? Can you imagine if I said, under the Aliens and Seditions Act, if I said most government is overbloated, incompetent, I could be tried under that act if it still was around. But now they just say, oh, you're just engaging in hateful rhetoric or misinformation. Or it could be a completely true fact. But if somebody in power doesn't like it, they are always trying to do it. Remember, we're big free speech people here, ladies and gentlemen. Let it all come forward. The truth will rise to the top. Next, our dumb criminal of the day. A Florida woman is accused of using a child to help her shoplift at a Target store. Shocking. Anyway, the Cape Coral police said that they responded to a Target store for reports of a theft that occurred a day prior. Well, anyway, Target's loss prevention personnel told the police that a woman, later identified as Elizabeth Novak, came into the store with a child under the age of 10. The loss prevention people provided video to the police that showed Novak loading up a cart with stolen goods before giving it to the child to walk out of the store. Now, the value of the item stolen was about $1,100, including a barista machine and a vacuum cleaner. Anyway, detectives began their investigation and sent Novak's pictures to officers and detectives. And then the officers responded saying, hey, we know who that woman is. We always get complaints of her being an aggressive panhandler. So they went and talked to her. And it revealed that Miss Novak had, in fact, loaded the cart with the merchandise before separating from the child and pointing the child to the exit doors and intentionally sending the child out of the store with the stolen goods. Needless to say, Miss Novak followed the child, and then Miss Novak followed the child out of the store for a short time after that to make it look like she had no idea what was going on. She was arrested and is now facing 1 count of grand theft and 1 count of contributing to delinquency of a minor. Miss Novak, you are a dumb criminal of the day. Congratulations. It's one thing to commit crime. It's another to involve minors. That's just dumb. And now, assuming this is your child, Miss Novak, they're probably going to take the child away because you're not teaching this child good skills in life. And that of stealing. Just something to think about, Miss Novak. You can probably think about it while you're in custody. All right, that's all we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.